Hey everyone, and welcome to 1.21 Gigawatts. I'm Peter, that is Matt. This is our movie show. We talk about new movies that come out, and this is going to be a review of Doctor Strange from Marvel. Now, sometimes, depending on the movie, we will start spoiler free. I don't think it's worth doing that with a new Marvel movie because
Yeah.
everyone's going to go and see it anyway. You're here because, you watch us do other stuff, you want to hear what we think about it. So we're just going to go straight into it.
Spoilers. It's a Marvel movie.
Yeah.
They are a formula anymore, and not that that's a bad thing, because I like the comfort of
It's,
the Marvel movie. It's like a
especially
warm hug.
especially the origin movies. Like, there's a very strict formula to them.
Yep.
So it's
And it's
definitely it's one of
comforting.
these.
As much as I'm looking forward to the next Guardians, because it's not that, right? Like
I don't know if I would say this is comforting at this point, but
for you, I'm
yeah,
talking for me.
sure,
Like I
sure.
like that the part twos are when they really become their own thing. So but anyways, we'll go. You talked through my intro because I was going to go. The doctor is in, and
Oh,
then
I'm
you're going to yell
sorry.
at me for being lame,
I'm sorry.
and we steamrolled that. So
Well,
yeah,
I'm going to start with stating my bias here because I was a bit.
yes,
Well, I say bias. It's just this was probably the least interested going into a Marvel movie I've been since they started the MCU because
even over the first Cap.
yeah, because as much as
Wow.
I think this is a better movie than the first Cap.
Hmm.
I didn't go in thinking it was going to be as bad as it was, And I know people give me crap for this. Look, I love Winter Soldier. Civil War was good, but that first Avenger, I don't like. I don't like that movie.
Everyone has
Yeah,
differences. Like I don't like Guardians as much as everyone else does, but
yeah.
you
Whereas,
know,
whereas for me, that's my second favorite of the whole
right.
bunch.
So
But yeah, so not only so basically I'm not a huge magic guy. I've never really been into Doctor Strange or really even been interested in being into Doctor Strange.
mhm,
Jason Aaron started writing them, last year, earlier this year, whenever it was.
yeah,
And
last year.
and I tried the first issue because it's Jason Aaron, and it didn't really matter. I still wasn't into it. So I want to say this because I don't want to just feel like I'm being
Well,
dismissive of things. It's
yeah,
just
you've already basically said that it's a decent movie.
yeah, it is.
by
It's
the by
decent.
the fact that you said that it's a better movie than Cap One,
Yeah.
which
Well,
which we all know you dislike.
So,
So
so the first factor of why I wasn't that hyped is because it's Doctor Strange, and I'm just not that interested in the character. The
mhm.
second reason why I wasn't that hyped, and kind of in a sort of middling level, was because it's directed by Scott Derrickson, who directed Sinister, and Sinister is a movie that I think is not very good, and I think the worst thing about Sinister is the direction specifically. So, that also had me thinking, it's probably not going to even be that, like,
Mhm.
had a great director come in and directed a character I didn't care about, they could make me care about it. Whereas, so I was
Yeah,
kind of getting in with I'm not sure how I'm going to feel about this. And I do have a lot of problems, but I will say yes, it was a bit more entertaining, and I was kind of more into it than I was expecting to be,
yeah,
for one reason or another. I do have a lot of nitpicks. I have a lot of criticisms that I'm going to throw at it, but
yeah, yeah.
at its base level, it was a good, decent time. Not setting my world on
It's
fire. It's not. It
yeah, it's a Marvel movie. Like again,
it
this is the
is.
14th I want to say
I think
that
so.
that we've
Yeah.
gotten. Yeah, so like
13,
you know
14,
it
around that.
anymore. Yeah, it would be cool if it was 13 because like 13 is like a mystical type thing. But
Yeah.
uh, but yeah, as I was saying earlier, it's like a warm hug. It's like a hug from your grandma. You haven't seen her for a year. You just go get a big, big, warm, open hug and listen to Benedict Cumberbatch's weird accent that throws you because it's like it's Sherlock, but he's American-ish.
Since you're bringing it up, I will. My first
Yeah,
nitpick is his accent. um,
yeah.
it's all over the place.
I almost rather have them let him keep his voice
Yeah,
and just make Strange a relocated surgeon.
well,
Like,
he doesn't even have to be relocated. He can still be living in America. There's nothing to say that he can be.
but
Like,
well, that's what I mean by
yeah,
relocated. Like because his ties from the comic. Just again, I like Pete. I'm not that familiar with Doctor Strange of the comic outside of this Aaron run, which I'm reading because Aaron's one of my current favorite writers, and he's very much a New Yorker in the sense that he lives in the village or in Greenwich Village, and that's almost a character in of itself. But he could still just be a British surgeon living in the
yeah.
village, or wherever. Especially when we meet him here, because he's very Stark-esque and he's like a jerk.
Yeah, he's arrogant. The word is definitely arrogant. Yeah.
Yeah, and he has like this loft penthouse apartment somewhere in the city that has a grand piano in it. And that right there is telling me all I need to know about this guy. You know, that he lives above everything, and it's all about his appearances. And then you hear him talk, and it's just like, was it necessary?
Yeah,
because we heard him do a Southern accent in 12 Years, which that was another weird thing to see him and Chiwetel Ejiofor back together.
Yeah, it's a really weird, coming back together after 12 Years a Slave.
Yeah.
but
but he kind of nailed this Southern drawl, which I've heard you say is kind of easy for Brits to do.
I think it's easier. I feel like...
Yeah.
I think part of the problem here is I think a lot of British people are really good at American accents. I don't think Benedict Cumberbatch is, because I think he's got such a distinct voice that even when he's trying to put on a different accent, you feel like he's disguising what his voice really sounds like. And it doesn't quite work. So like some of it felt like he forgot to for some lines. Like I could hear the English come out, and then there was other lines where it just feels like he's doing this generic gruff American like voice.
Well, I felt like it changed. Like almost there was reshoots, because early on it felt like that weird mid-Atlantic, mid-century that you heard in the movies. And then like once he starts getting to the mystical stuff, it becomes just like a different. And I don't know if that was a choice of his, or if that was just, different direction.
Yeah.
As it were. So,
but yeah,
they
set him up. They set up his relationship with Rachel McAdams' character, who's a nurse or doctor who works with them.
No, yeah, she's another surgeon.
She's another surgeon. Yeah.
But she works in the ER. He's like a neurosurgeon, so he's like a rock star.
Yeah, I said nurse because I think at one point they were claiming she was night nurse, and she's not really. But
no, she's not. But no, she's an ER nurse, and she kind of lives to help everybody. Where you get the vibe from him, like he's very much of, like, hey, you want him to do a super complicated surgery? He's your man. Like he's a rock star in the field.
But you also see how arrogant it is though, because he like dismisses a potential surgery because I don't think I can actually pull that off. Let's not tarnish my record. Swipe next. What's the next option?
Also, they bring up a Air Force colonel that needs spine surgery, and he kind of, which I took it that was Rhodey from the end of Civil War.
Ah, yeah, okay, yeah.
But it's so
minor that you could
just
leave it,
breeze past it. I'm reading into it because that's why I love these movies, that they're interconnected and part of a bigger picture. So, but yeah, you get that vibe from him very quickly. That's not worth my time. I'm not going to get enough press. That sounds fun and complicated.
And that's very much the arc. It's about him learning that it's not all about him. Like they even say that to him repeatedly. That's what his entire arc is in this movie. And to their credit, it does feel different enough from Tony Stark. It doesn't feel the exact same thing.
No,
which is nice because
I feel they're on the same spectrum, but different sides of it. Where Tony still has been changed by becoming Iron Man, and even here, when Doctor Strange becomes the Doctor Strange in the comics, you still feel he has that swagger to him and that arrogance. Like, I'm going to be the best and better than those before me. And I thought they did a good job at that, at the tone of the character.
Yeah. He gets in the accident. He loses the use of his hands in any meaningful way because it's like, he can't. Obviously, a big part of his job being a neurosurgeon is to finally go in, just and
he's
be
nimble.
Yeah, delicate. And now his hands are like kind of crushed. And
that was not to get too forward in the movie. I expected a lot more horror elements, being that it's Scott Derrickson and he's like the horror guy. And I think the most horrific thing...
He wants to be the horror guy. I don't know if I would agree. He is the horror guy.
I've never seen Sinister, so
sucked.
You're speaking out against it has prevented me numerous times from watching it. Yeah. I think Timmy likes that one, right?
Yeah, but he also likes the second one, which is somehow even worse than the first one. So.
Yeah, so I never bother with it. Anyways, I think the most horrific thing in this movie is when he wakes up and sees his hands, and they're mangled, and they have like the exoskeletons on them, and it looks like they've mangled his hands by trying to fix them.
Yeah,
which is, I understand that horror from the character, and he was kind of like, I could have fixed it. I was like, well, dude, you were out, like. You're not going to fix your own hands with the hands you have.
Yeah.
But
Actually, I do want to bring in a complaint. I want to bring in one of my main complaints
yeah.
about the movie here, because I feel like I can almost forgive it to an extent in the fighting scenes and the pure, because a lot of people are talking about the visuals and how like they do all these great, wacky Inception-like things with, buildings turning, floors
But
moving.
you said it there. You said it there, Inception-like. We've
Yeah.
experienced this before.
But that's not even my problem. My problem is the direction. My problem is how it's covered with the camera. I feel like the way it's directed, the way the camera moves, the way it's edited, it doesn't make it coherent enough for me. And the reason why I'm bringing it up here is because I actually have this problem in the regular scenes. I think the scene where he crashes the car is actually the first big sign that was like, oh, something's kind of off about this. Like, the filmmaking's not quite on the ball. And it's because it felt really disjointed. Like, there's lots of cuts where I don't feel like I, as a viewer, have taken in the information necessary for the cut to the next thing. It feels very haphazard in a lot of ways.
Very busy. Like, there's a lot of motion to cover. Yeah, to cover that. Like, so when he gets into the accident, he's driving on a country road, basically.
Yeah,
he's still in New York.
Yeah.
Yeah, and yet when he finally crashes, and he crashes through the shack in the forest, he ends up overlooking a bridge of New York, which I'm not familiar. I've never been to New York, but I'm pretty sure it doesn't work like that. Like Long Island itself and upstate, like on the continental part of New York, like correct me New Yorkers if I'm wrong, there's not a lot of jagged cliffs like that there.
I can't tell you, so.
Yeah, and I felt like the geography in another movie, if you cover the geography enough, then it's not going to be a problem. But here, it's so busy, you get lost in that, and then it just doesn't seem to make sense.
Well,
and this is before we get introduced to magic.
Yeah. This is kind of why it kind of like multiplies a bit when we get. This is why I want to bring it up for the regular scenes. I felt this way in the regular scenes, that there was just something slightly. I don't like how Scott Derrickson shoots movies. Basically, is what I'm getting at. I don't like his directorial style. But it becomes a real problem in the fight scenes because I feel like this is how I phrased it when I was talking to someone else about this week. Is you get away with a lot more wacky camera stuff when you're in a situation in a place where us as people already understand and are familiar with. So, if you have a fight scene in a warehouse, a church, wherever, pick your location. But it's a real place that we've either been to or we've seen 100 times, 1,000 times in movies before. When you have this element where everything's moving and it's like magical stuff and there's like forming under their feet and all these other wacky things that are going on during these like chase and fight sequences, you really should make the camera work in the direction simpler. You should pull back, let it happen in a wide shot, let it soak it all in. I feel like by doing quick cuts and all that in a scene like this with all this stuff that we can't really comprehend, it just makes it feel, the word you used is a very good word, busy. There's too much going on. Well,
it's what Greengrass did in Bourne, right? When he took over the Bourne franchise. Yeah. But he did that because he wanted you to be disoriented.
Yeah.
And here I don't feel like being disoriented. Like maybe in the car crash, that's fine. But as you're talking about, when you're talking about moving walls and planes of existence and they're hopping through different areas, you need to know where you are so then the stakes matter.
Yeah.
Because if you're in that mirror realm that we get introduced to, which is like their practice realm, this doesn't kind of matter. Yeah. But now you're talking about the real world. And just to bring it to another Marvel movie, in Thor 2, there's multiple realms that are jumping in between. And I felt like the director, was it Alan Taylor?
Yeah, he did a better job.
One of the Game of Thrones guys. Yeah, he did a better job because you established where they were. Even in the scene where Mjolnir is going through them all and it ends up on the train, made that funny bit of Thor on the subway. You know exactly what's happening throughout the entire time. And here you don't. And it kind of, once we start getting into there, you kind of get bored because you're kind of like, well, I don't know where we are and what the stakes are.
Yeah, it almost feels like nothing that happens kind of matters in a weird way because everything's just flipping and changing anyway. We can't get a grasp on it. I always talk about how in action scenes specifically, to be honest, it matters in all scenes, but in action scenes especially, geography is such a big thing. Like if you understand the space between people and the space between objects and all this kind of stuff, if you understand where you are, it makes everything feel more important, it makes everything feel more impactful. That's why one of my big complaints with Batman v Superman is when you get to all the action stuff at the end, it feels like they're just surrounded by a CG cloud and there's no sense of space. Whereas you watch the fight scene at the end of Avengers, they're always around buildings, you get a sense of how high up they are or whatever. Everything kind of clicks in your head, you know?
Yeah, and as cool as that Wonder is in Avengers, it does that. It establishes where all of the characters are.
Yeah.
And so, and Whedon understands that as a filmmaker, like, yeah, this scene's going to look really cool, but it's serving a purpose. Versus someone like Snyder and maybe Derrickson, they're like, well, it just needs to look cool. That's the first job.
Yeah.
And you lose some storytelling in that.
Yeah, because it almost feels like you've got all this, you've got $100-200 million on this movie, and you've got all these wonderful effects that look good of, like, you know, fire escapes forming under their feet and, like, you know, walls spinning around and all that. I'm like, you're almost hiding it in the camera work. You don't have to. Yeah. You have the budget to let this just show off and do that. Let us see it. And
yeah. Outside of the first time it happened, where you get the Ancient One and she's showing down with the, I can't remember the bad guy's name, but it's Mads Mikkelsen.
Yeah, Mads Mikkelsen.
Yeah, Collerish or whatever his name is.
I want to say Khaleesi. It's not Khaleesi, but it sounded like Khaleesi.
It's not. Yeah,
but it sounded like it.
So, yeah, there's not a sense of wonder, and I don't need the Spielberg sense of wonder.
Khaleesi. Was it Khaleesi? May have been. I don't know.
Up now. Anyways, yeah, there's not that sense of wonder with the characters that this is happening, and I feel like the first time you see it, we should get that. And
yeah, it does it as if it's normal, as if we're used to it, and it's like, no, we're not used to it. Explain this to us. And it's funny because one of the things I don't like about Magic is it feels like there's not a lot of rules, and I think there is rules in this movie, and they kind of set stuff up for the most part. But actually, my complaint was almost that there was too many. Not because I didn't feel like they were having rules that shouldn't be there. It was just because I was like, you're almost giving me too much in one movie. Like you keep piling on. It's like, here's the rules for this. Here's the actual protection rules. Here's the middle world rules. Like they kept adding more stuff. I'm like, all right, guys, slow down. Like I need to take some of this stuff in.
Yeah. So the bad guy we're talking about is Caecilius.
Caecilius.
So you're right. It is like Khaleesi, but not quite. But yeah, I was gonna say something. I got distracted by looking up the bad guy's name.
Oh, by the way,
the rules.
Caecilius. Go on. Talk about the rules before we move on. Yeah.
But no, the rules. I appreciate that they did try to set the rules, even when he gets to Kamartaj. Like he has to. I almost felt like it's in Star Wars with Luke and Yoda. And, you know, we're setting up what these guys can exactly do and what their limits are. But once you start getting towards the end and he gets the Eye of Agamotto and it's all about breaking those rules, it kind of gets murky.
Yeah.
Because it's like, rules are great, but we got to break them sometimes. And it's like, well, that goes against everything you've told us up to this point.
Yeah, but when I came into it, that was kind of my problem because we had that whole rewind thing where you could rewind time. And like, wait a minute. What? That's just too powerful. How does he not just use this every time something happens from this point on?
Yep.
Now, admittedly, he gives it up, and I do like that it turns out to be the time gem, the Infinity Stone.
But even my wife pointed out, because she's been to every single one of these with me.
Yeah.
She goes, that was a little weird that they just announced that it was a time gem. Like,
well, do you know the weirdest thing about that for me was that was the last scene. Oh, obviously not counting the post-credit stuff.
Yeah.
I felt that was a really weird last scene to end on. It didn't feel climactic. It felt like a bit of exposition, and then it cut to credits. I'm like, what?
Yeah. Almost like they added it later, because I kind of, as a fan of these movies, I understand that it's a time gem. It is a different color than the rest.
Yeah.
It's a lot like Vision in Age of Ultron with his yellow. Like, this is standing out as the green, and this is not like everything else that we're seeing.
Yeah, Thor 2 had the red one, and so on.
Exactly, and Loki had the purple with the or the green and a scepter, whatever.
Yeah.
Purple was Guardians. So now, man, all of these are getting weird. They're running together. But anyways, it was a little clumsy just for Wong to introduce this, like, hey, that's an Infinity Gem.
Honestly, the way the plot flowed was really clumsy. In fact, the biggest complaint I have with the clumsy plot, because it kind of felt like Act 2 was almost like truncated to a really small amount,
Yeah.
Because we had these montages of him getting better, and I liked some of it. I liked him using astral projection to continue studying while he's asleep. That was a nice little touch. That was kind of like it was arrogant, but it was smart arrogant. Like he was doing something really smart to be better.
This is why he's the best. Like at the end of the day, yes, he's arrogant, but he's earned it.
Yeah,
that's what they always say about the difference between cockiness and arrogance.
Yeah. I do like that when because it's in the trailer, that moment where she says, "How did you become a surgeon?" And he's like, years of practice and studying. I liked it when he says that and he realizes that she's saying that he has to do that for this. He doesn't go, "Oh no, that's going to take too long." He just accepts it. It's like, right, fine. I'll do it. I've done it once. I'll do it again. It's on.
Yeah. and those are the rules of this magic. It's not finger snap, bewitch magic.
Now, admittedly, they did not really I felt like we cut through some montages of him training. It was not very clear how long it had been. I don't think when when we get to
But then again, we're involved in the time gem and in portals between places. So
even before we
stand still.
Yeah,
right?
but even before we get to that though, I feel like because I was getting to the clunky problem. The big complaint I had was basically when he goes in, and we have that fun stuff where he's stealing books using the portals to steal books out of the library, and that's all fine. When he steals the eye and he does the thing with the apple and they catch him, they basically explain what the villain's doing in that scene, and then a portal opens and the villain's doing it and he's there. Like he just shows up immediately after they explain it, and I couldn't believe it.
As if he was on the other side of the door listening. Oh, now's my moment.
Yeah, that's my cue. It's time. I couldn't believe he just walked into the movie at that time. I mean, it's kind of a shame. They waste Mads Mikkelsen. He has nothing to do in this movie.
And that's the Marvel problem with the
villains,
opening. Yeah, I mean, outside of Loki, it's very hard to name one that stands out above the rest. And I just accept that as a fan of these movies.
It's such a shame though when it's an actor like Mads Mikkelsen can be like such a great character actor. He can be such a great villain.
Well, yeah, and he was supposed to be the villain in Thor 2 as Malekith.
Also wasted Christopher Eccleston.
But exactly, and Eccleston's another one that you could say about that and the guy that played Ronan, what's his name?
Lee
Guardians.
Lee something. Lee Pace? No, Lee Pace. Lee Pace is a comedian. No, good.
Yeah. Anyways, he's another great actor that gets wasted. Yeah. So, but Mads, I thought, at least, I mean, he's getting that Disney money because he's in this, and now he's going to be in Rogue One. Yeah.
I was funny, actually, I got a trailer for Rogue One, and I was like, oh yeah, he's in this too. He's in a lot of stuff now.
Them canceling Hannibal, he's, I think, crying himself to sleep on a pile of money.
Yeah, he's fine. So, he's doing just fine. And every so often he goes...
My problems with the villain in this one aren't that... we don't get enough of him, because I feel like his reason for doing all this, I understand more than some of the others. Like, even more so than Ronan, who's all about cleansing.
Sure, it's still very weak, though. Like, it's very superficial. It's not...
But he's like, I'm going to plunge the world into darkness because in darkness there's no time, and in time we live forever. And you're like, look at this loony bird, And they had a cool look to him, and they felt threatening enough. His henchmen, not so much, and I thought...
this is kind of what I mean about the whole second act kind of almost being very truncated, is once he walks into the movie, it starts a chain of events that leads to the final. Like... I almost thought, okay, there'll be a fight, but then time will pass again, and Doctor Strange will get better. But it didn't. It just the movie just went from there and all the way to the end.
Yeah. So it starts a sprint.
Yeah.
That when he gets introduced.
Now, stuff that I did like, though, stuff that I thought was very fun. Actually, the cloak of levitation I thought was the highlight of the movie. I really liked everything with the cloak was great.
It's like Magic Carpet in the Aladdin movie, the first animated.
Has a mind of its
own character. Yeah. And I like that when Wong sees that it's on him, or was it Mordo that sees it's on him?
Yeah, it's Mordo, yeah.
It's like, oh, the cloak chose you. Like, that's a huge deal.
It's fussy or something. He says something like that. It's particular.
And that's cool. I also liked how funny this was.
See. We might have a bit of a different opinion here. Because I thought a good chunk of the humour in this was very forced and didn't work.
Now, I say this as someone, I watched it at 9:30 at night after a full work day, and being up for 14 hours, So I might have been a little bit punchy and appreciated the humor differently.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying all the
Yeah.
humor didn't work, but there
No,
was
no, no.
some stuff that really didn't. It felt
Like the cloak of levitation pulling him away
yeah, that
from the
was good.
fight.
That was funny. Yeah.
I thought that was funny. But on the same time, I know there are parts that I laughed that I can't remember now because I was so punchy.
The
That might not be as funny on the second time through.
the one thing that really stuck out to me as being awkward and not very funny was it was when Doctor Strange would make like pop culture references. It was when he was naming all the one name of like artists to Wong.
Yeah.
That to me felt very forced.
Beyonce.
And it didn't.
Well,
I think it's because it didn't feel like a joke. And even I say this as someone who doesn't really know Doctor Strange, but it felt out
Yeah.
of character almost for him to be like Beyonce. Like I don't know, it felt weird.
Yeah, well, it's not going to age well like the others
Yeah.
will, because other like outside of Cap and his pop culture references, and he's like, oh, that's one I understood. But that's like Wizard of Oz, like that's an old timey. Everybody knows.
Everything he's referencing is already old, so they don't age.
Yeah,
Like, it's
exactly. So it will age well down the line. This with Beyonce and Adele and stuff might not. But I did crack a laugh when you go back to Wong and he's listening to Beyonce as the
Yeah.
books are getting stolen. But that's a cheap laugh. Like it's not that might not be as funny the second time through. So,
Yeah.
but I did like Wong, and he's from the Wong that I get in the comics. He's completely different because kind of in the comics he's Doctor Strange's Alfred,
also
and he's the support structure.
can I just say that I love that they actually cast his real name is Wong. Can I just
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, his name's Benedict Wong.
Which,
I mean,
yeah, it's
Benedict
even funnier.
Cumberbatch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Benedict Wong and
but-
Benedict Cumberbatch together.
And I like that he's a librarian, but he's like a badass librarian. Like they all have this training, and it felt like a step in the right direction for this character who could have just been like his, the guy that maintains this thing. That's where I thought it was going when they introduced the different sanctums
Yeah.
and how they protect the realms. I thought, oh, this is just the guy that protects the one in New York, and he lives there, and they're gonna have to partner up because it's Strange. But I like what they did here, that he's his own character and kind of challenges Doctor Strange on not being such of a jerk.
I've touched upon some of my problems. I want to touch upon some things that I actually really liked.
Yeah.
I mentioned the cloak. The cloak's really good. I loved a couple of the ideas here that I really loved. I loved the fight between Strange and the other astral protection. Like when he's in astral protection, he's having a fight whilst what's her face is trying to save his life. Like he's on the operating table, and she's trying to save him whilst he's fighting in astral projection. Like that was a fun thing. It was a really good idea. It worked really well, and I thought that was a really cool thing. I also do like his journey, and I like how he ultimately defeats Dormammu. Even though I feel like we escalated to that really quickly, it felt unnatural.
We did. Yeah, we did, but I like what he did because you have this big purple guy, which I have a little bit of problem with the design just based off of the non-fan perspective. Because at the end of Avengers, I had a lot of my friends that aren't in the comics go, who's the purple dude with the weird chin? And I felt Dormammu looked a little bit too much like Thanos, and there's going to cause some confusion with the non-fans.
I think if I've got a problem with how it looks, it looks a little bit too generic, big CG face kind of thing. Like, it didn't stick out and feel like his own thing. But I love how he beats him. I love that it's because he accepts that it's not about him, and he's like, okay, sure, I get stuck in this moment forever, but it saves everyone else. But I also love the twist on it is that he's actually bullying this being into submission because like he keeps killing him. Doctor Strange dies like 20 times. He keeps killing him in a variety of ways, but he's on a loop.
It's like Edge of Tomorrow.
Ultronic, Matt.
Like,
Ultronic.
But yeah, it's like Edge of Tomorrow. But he's beating this guy into submission, and he's just like, just stop having me kill you, and I'll leave you alone. And I thought that was a nice little twist. Because really, I mean, for as much as Caecilius is the villain, Dormammu is like the big threat.
Yeah, which is kind of the problem, is like because he's not like Mads Mikkelsen is not even really in the final fight. Really, he's already dealt he's dealing with him. It's not. So it's kind of like the villain's kind of unfocused, and that's kind of a problem. But like I say, I liked his journey. I liked what he learns, and I did like the cloak and the astral projection stuff. I thought was really fun. But like I say, the structure of it was really clunky. I felt like it skipped parts. And then, like I said, the ending scene doesn't feel like an ending scene. It feels like an exposition scene, and then it just cuts to credits. And it's like, oh, right, okay, we're done. Sure.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I will say I'm proud of my audience because nobody moved, because Marvel's got us trained so well now
Yeah.
that there's going to be more.
No one moved at that point. Some people still move after the first mid-credit scene, though.
Yeah.
So,
Which I think that the mid-credit or the post-credit scene is a little more key to the story than the teaser scene in the middle. So
teaser scenes in the middle is fun. It brings in Thor, and it's clearly hinting at the next Thor movie, or possibly Infinity War, depending on.
I think depending on what it was, because it's Thor talking. Which as soon as I heard Hemsworth's voice, I got excited.
Yeah, and also Thor being impressed at the beer refills was amusing.
That was great, but he's saying that he needs Doctor Strange's help because him and Loki are on Earth looking for Odin.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if that's a thread for Ragnarok, because everything we hear about Ragnarok is him and Hulk doing this across the realms buddy cop type of deal.
We know Strange is going to be in Infinity War, which is why I think maybe it's that, but it doesn't really matter. Either way, it's a fun little tease.
But it's why I love these, is like it moved the story forward, but it also had that fun that the one at the end of Iron Man 3 did.
Yeah.
With I'm not that kind of doctor.
Yeah, and then of course he says, right, so if we get Odin, you'll leave instantly. He's like, yeah, sure. He's like, okay, I'll help. And that's honestly, I wasn't that keen on the final post-credit scene myself.
See, I like, because so Aaron, again, just to bring it back to the comics, Aaron reintroduced Mordo in the second arc, which is weird because it's the second time he's done that. He reintroduced Malekith in his second arc of Thor, right before Dark World had come out. He does the same with Mordo here. And Mordo's an out-and-out villain, but during here, he's an ally and almost a second teacher. And I love Chiwetel Ejiofor in this movie.
Yeah, he's good.
And he comes off as sympathetic because he's all about the natural laws. And here it drives that even more so that he's going to be an adversary, but not a villain, if that makes sense. Like, he's driven more personally.
Here's the problem I have with it, though.
Yeah.
I don't buy his turn to this extent. He is vicious in this final scene. He, takes this guy's power to walk back and leaves him there paralyzed on the floor.
Yeah. Which was Benjamin Bratt, which I was like, well, that's an odd casting.
And I just felt like, first of all, it feels a bit hypocritical because you're using all this magic to do all this to begin with. But I didn't buy the turn from sure, he walks off and says he wants no part of this at the end of the movie. I just didn't completely buy that he turned this evil yet. I don't know.
See, and I didn't see him as evil because, so when the Ancient One is dying and having the talk, they're having the heart-to-heart with Strange, and she's like, this is, I fast forward through life and I always end here and I can't see farther, so I figured this was my end. You're going to have to break the rules to go forward to win, and Mordo is not going to appreciate that. So once I heard that, I kind of saw his turn coming. But I'd also known that Mordo's a villain of Strange. So if you don't know that, then yeah, I can see how the adversarial relationship. But I almost see this as like a prestige moment to where they're going to be on opposite sides, but I still don't see Mordo as evil.
That's the thing, though. I feel like you have a different perspective because you knew he's eventually going to be a villain.
Well, and that's it. Yeah.
You have this weird. Whereas for me, I'm like, I just don't buy this turn. It doesn't feel natural to me. So.
Yeah, and I get where you're coming from. I'm just explaining from my point of view where I'm looking at it is Dormammu still the big bad or whatever, but in the next movie or wherever we see Mordo next, he's going to be like an adversary, not necessarily a villain right now. Unless he just ramps it up and is just gets really into dark magic and listening to Black Sabbath, then we'll get into that. But yeah, I'm also a fan of the Ejiofor. It's nice seeing him in this it's crazy. And it's also crazy that we have Sherlock from BBC. Is that on BBC?
Yeah.
Over there? Because it's on BBC America here. And then Irene Adler from the Downey versions of Sherlock as love interest in this movie. So there's the whole idea of a multiverse. You have a Sherlock and Irene Adler pairing up. But the cast, I will say, is one of the strongest points for me of the movie because they're all solid, despite some of the stuff they have to work with.
Yeah, they're kind of hampered by accents, and like for Mads, it's just he gets no screen time, and his character's poorly defined. It's just, But I will say this: like after Civil War, right? I was kind of feeling a bit not depressed, but just down on Marvel because it lost that special feeling, like because I loved the first Avengers, I loved Guardians, I loved Winter Soldier. And Civil War, well, good. There was nothing. Like, I can't even point at it and go, "There's something wrong with it." It was just, it was good. I had a fun time, but it didn't feel as special.
It's the 13th movie, though, right?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
But I almost feel like, is this maybe where I'm getting to the point now where, because it's Marvel and not DC, if this was DC doing this well, I would probably just be in euphoria at this point and just
and that's where I am too. I'm just like,
let it wash over me.
The fact that I left this movie and I liked it so much, and it's a character I don't have ties to. I love that Marvel can do that, and it pains me that DC can take or Warner's can take my favorite characters in the universe I grew up with and just run it into the ground like a toddler playing with Hot Wheels. But I'm not gonna, I'm not going to begrudge Marvel for spitting these out and being successful.
But the point I'm getting at, though, is that I left Civil War, a movie that's better than this. I like Civil War more than this one did. I care more about a lot of those characters, way more than I do about Doctor Strange. And I still kind of left feeling, it was great even, but the special feeling's not there. Like, I'm almost just a little bit tired of them.
There's fatigue. I can see the fatigue.
And I went into this, maybe it was my tempered expectations because of that feeling, but I kind of had fun. I wouldn't rate it that highly, if I'm rating it out of 10, I think certainly it's like 6.5, 7, something like that.
Yeah, I don't think I can give it a rating like that. I just, putting it with the rest of the Marvel movies, I put it in the middle of them.
Yeah,
like it's far from the worst that they've done, but it's certainly not the best. So it's in that.
It would probably be sort of like closer to the bottom for me. Not right at the bottom, of course, because
there's always Cap for you.
Because Captain America: First Avenger exists, but it's in that lower third, if you will.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I will say that it's very few that like I love Thor on a different level because he's my favorite Marvel character. So I kind of go on those blindly willing to accept things.
Actually, that's a good point. Like Thor's a movie where I didn't really care about the character before I seen it, and Thor did a better job of this one, I would say, of making me care.
That makes sense.
So
that makes sense. But what I was going to do is Doctor Strange just kind of made me challenge the way I think about life in a way, which is weird for a superhero movie to do. Just because...
Okay.
Hang with me here. I feel... My attitude gets me into trouble a lot, like in my everyday life. And I can feel a sense of kinship with Stephen Strange. That everyone's kind of like, yeah, you think you're the greatest, but you're kind of a jerk. And so the fact that he kind of has to go through this mission and realize, almost in a Jedi-like way, that you only really know everything when you don't know anything. I appreciate that sentiment. And the fact that this movie kind of opened me up to that and kind of made me want to go to Nepal. I'm not going to lie. Like...
Sure.
Let's go hunt Yetis in Nepal and have a kind of awakening. I like that. But then again, next week I could just be like, yeah, whatever. People make me mad. I'm just going to yell still.
Yeah. I feel like for me, this has really been an off year for superhero movies. Obviously, Batman v Superman was, dire
Terrible.
and ruined my childhood.
Yep.
I'm not being serious, but, that general feeling.
Yeah.
Those characters mean a lot to me, and it was just a shame.
X-Men disappointed.
I liked X-Men more than you did.
Yeah, well, it's still. I think you were even a little more disappointed by it because towards the end it got really messy. Like I would say, even more messy than Doctor Strange.
It did. I probably enjoyed X-Men a bit more than Doctor Strange, though. In all honesty.
Yeah, I love the build in X-Men. Like go back and watch our Apocalypse review. The ending. It felt like I feel that the director's cut's going to be awesome when they finally do release that. And then like you talked about Civil War, and what else have we had?
That's pretty much it. But I'm just like looking at it. Civil War I liked, but I was feeling kind of underwhelmed with a little bit just because of fatigue. Batman v Superman was terrible. Suicide Squad was barely any better, and that's DC's my universe. That's the ones that I care more about, and they were terrible. And obviously Doctor Strange, I was never that into, and it was fine. Like obviously we've talked about it, and it was a decent movie with its problems. Whereas next year though, I'm like, man, that Logan trailer's really good. Man, Guardians 2 should be great. I'm looking forward to Spider-Man. Thor should be really good. Like, I feel like next year has a really good slate for the most part that I'm kind of excited for. Whereas this year felt like a kind of an off year for the most. So
yeah, definitely.
And hopefully Wonder Woman won't upset me as much as the last two DC
I
movies.
I haven't watched that new trailer just because I'm trying to wait it out.
It's better than the last one.
Okay, that's good.
It's better than the last one. There's definitely more colour in it, which is good. It feels heroic. I have to admit though, when it cuts to the title at the end and the guitar comes in, it ruins the mood.
Yeah.
It really ruins the mood. But
Warner's right now, they're so misguided that they will put electric guitar at the end of a World War I movie.
And by the way, I'm just going to say it now, Justice League come next November might be the most negative video we ever do. Batman Superman was bad, but that might even be worse because we care about those characters. It's funny because I think a lot of people on the internet assume that when you bash a movie, like a DC movie or a Marvel movie, they assume you're like a fan of the other one. But this is not the case here. No. We're DC guys.
Yeah.
We are.
Definitely. I've been called a Marvel fanboy, and I was like, you don't know me. Like,
yeah,
I mean,
it's so weird.
As the people
so
watching can tell, my Superman room, like my walls are blue. Superman blue.
Yeah.
Like, that's how much I love these. And so to tie it back into Marvel, the fact that I can go into all of these and leave moderately happy with every single one, that's a test to their filmmaking and who they have in charge. So, and even their TV is solid. I mean, Netflix and then even S.H.I.E.L.D., which I'm so behind on.
I love S.H.I.E.L.D.
Generally, yeah.
Honestly, this might be a hot take for people, right?
Mm-hmm.
S.H.I.E.L.D. is legitimately one of my favourite things in the MCU.
Well, so there you go. It's like
Season 1 was rocky, don't get me wrong. A lot of people point to Season 1, but Seasons 2 through 4, or at least 2 and 3 and 4 so far, I care more about S.H.I.E.L.D. than I do about a lot of the movies now. I really, really do.
We'll see, and that just speaks again to who's in control. They're part of a bigger picture. Yet S.H.I.E.L.D. stands on its own a lot, and
it's doing all its
the Netflix stuff.
It's doing all its own things within Humans. That's doing that. Netflix is doing all the shows. Defenders is gearing up, and what's really nice about Defenders is they've announced it's only 8 episodes, which is great.
Yeah. It's going to make it feel different than the TV shows.
It'll make it feel different, but I even all the other Marvel Netflix shows though, even the ones that I love more than the others, they all are a little bit too long. They all could do with trimming a couple of episodes, and I feel like this is 8 episodes, should be more tight.
That's where it'll be. Yeah.
I mean, you've seen Stranger Things. Like, how tight was that? That 8 episode season, so good.
Felt like it feels like a miniseries, not a series.
So
Marvel just firing on all cylinders.
Yeah, we've went
comics right now.
Yeah, we've went tangent there towards the end, but
I mean, it's all part of the greater structure, and just know that it does kill us when we have to tear apart, the Snyderverse, as it were. We want it to be good, and I never go into these things wanting to not like them. Suicide Squad notwithstanding, but
yeah. So it's worth mentioning that next week, give or take the same time, we'll have a review for Arrival up. That's what's coming next week from us, movie-wise. Of course, we were talking about Doctor Strange. We do review Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. every week. Not me and Matt, me and Connor on Almost Cancelled on this channel. We review Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. every week, as well as we did all Luke Cage when that came out, and we do all the DC TV shows as well. At least most of them. We don't do Gotham, but all the CW ones we do. So by all means, check out that stuff if you care about it. And we also do a DC Comics podcast every week. Talking about all the comics that came out from DC. Again, showing our DC bias. But there you go. So that's just everything you can check out if you want to. But otherwise, guys, let us know what you think of Doctor Strange in the comments below. If you have seen it, like and subscribe and all that stuff. It helps us out a lot. Thank you very much for watching, guys. We will see you next time.